Hello, awesome people. I hope you're having a great day today. Today, taking a look at the next short story in the Lankhmar collection of the first set of books and short stories and novellas in the Fafhrd and Gray Mouser series for you folks, called The Sunken Land. It's about 20 pages long. I read it last night, about 40 minutes. It was a lot of fun, pretty fun. Definitely enjoyed going back and reading it for you for a second time. So let's do my review of it. Fritz Leiber's book. Now, Fritz Leiber, as a reminder, is one of the most influential writers of all time. He has written this series, started off in 1939, finished up in when he died, and decades and decades later, as well as other things. He's won Hugo Awards for this and other science fiction things. He's won Stoker's for the horror stuff, right? This guy's written in a lot of different genres, and he published up through the 90s when he died, in the early 90s. So he has published every decade, and so forth, which is a key part of what passion of his channel. If you recall, the title of his channel is The Worst Thing About New Books, which is a quote by a French philosopher named Jacques Joubert, who said that the worst thing about new books was that they kept us from reading the old ones. So a person who wrote starting in the pulp era up to the 90s, but hasn't written in decades, right, that is something that you probably have forgotten about today, but we shouldn't, because this guy's influence is massive, right? Every modern fantasy work owes to this series, specifically, and this writer in generally, because of how important it has been, right? First of all, his characters are thieves, which set what thieves look like in modern fantasy. Second of all, they have skills like climbing walls, for example, without using tools, and they can just pop right on up them and so forth. That are definitely things that modern thieves do in fantasy work. He wrote the first huge city of Lankhmar. That is one of the key settings of this plane that everybody works on and lives on. As another example, which huge cities are things. The Thieves Guild that he has is exactly like Thieves Guilds in modern works today, right? So if you're reading a modern fantasy work about in a huge city with thieves and thief guilds and their interaction with the populace and so forth, you're taking steps from this. In fact, he was so influential that in 1979, in a game called Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, the co-creator Gary Gygax said that this is where he got the ideas from the story. He listed them in a list of appendix N of all the places where he got ideas for this game from. So it's cited too. Also, in that game later on in the 80s, this was incorporated as a campaign world. He was writing. Despite all of his publications and all of his sales and all of his awards, he was a working poor person who would work out of his kitchen sink and kitchen table on a typewriter rather than a computer. And so he was definitely somebody who just didn't have a whole lot of money. He was just a working person all his career. Also, he was a protege of H.P. Lovecraft, as you may recall. Lovecraft died in 1937, a couple of years before he published his first short story in this collection, actually, for you folks. And but he was like editing his things, and they wrote back and forth and so forth. So he was definitely a writer that H.P. Lovecraft saw a lot of talent in. So let's take a look at the third short story in this mini series of collections for you folks, The Sunken Land. So basically, what's happening is that Gray Mouser and Fafhrd have left the area that they went to, the Bleak Shore, and then the last one, the Howling Tower. Fafhrd has built a boat for them to journey on because his people sail a lot. They're Vikings, if you recall. Anyway, so they sail a lot, so he's built a boat for them to sail back across the journey and so forth. He's sailing over a place that his people used to raid a lot. And on sea raids, but they got lost generations ago, and their land arguably sunken. So that's what the tales that they've told and so forth. So that's where the title of this comes from, is The Sunken Land that they're now finding and so forth. Fafhrd early on will find a ring with a key on it of a weird and strange nature that he puts on his ring and keeps. Even the Gray Mouser definitely doesn't know where he's coming from, and he thinks it's a weird thing. He tells him to throw it back, but he doesn't. They get attacked by another boat during a sea thing, and that's about It's 5 or 6 pages into a 20-page short story. So I'll leave you there. What do I think about it? I think it's pretty strong. I think I'll use this as 20-page one as well. I think it's fine. It probably talks a little too much. So I'm going to be giving this probably, and I think that it probably could have been longer, and it has too much talking and not like action and so forth, but it actually has some good combat scenes. So I'm probably going to be giving this probably like an 8- out of 10, like a 7.8 or a 7.7 or 7.9. Then I'm running up to an 8 proper. So I'm giving this an 8- out of 10. But your mileage will be very. You might like it more, you might like it less. So have you read it? What do you think about it? Let's talk about it in the comments below. Anyway, so there you are. I'll go ahead and leave you to it. If you enjoyed this, why not hit that subscribe button? There's going to be a lot more of these to follow. And then finally, I want to thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and investing and watching my video. We all have so many things that are happening in our lives, and we're happening in so many different directions. So the fact that you spent this time with me is incredibly humbling, and I appreciate it. So thanks again, and have an amazing day.